For millions, they were the perfect TV family. Come on, get happy. Wasn't just a song lyric, it was an invitation. And every week, America accepted, gathering to watch the colorfully clad musically gifted Partridge Family on their living room consoles, in their psychedelic bus. They weren't just a band on the road. They were a symbol of a brighter, more harmonious world. A welcome escape from the turbulent early 1970s. At the heart of it all was Shirley Partridge, the unflappable, ever-smiling mom who held the family and the show together with what looked like effortless grace. Played by the beloved Academy Award-winning actress Shirley Jones, Mrs. Partridge was the mother America wished it had. She was modern, supportive, and seemed to have an endless supply of wisdom and warmth. The show was a pop culture juggernaut that spawned hit records, sold out concerts, and turned its young cast into overnight superstars. For 4 seasons, the music played on, and then, all of a sudden, it stopped. The official story was simple. The show had run its course. For decades, fans accepted this, content to remember the Partridges as they were frozen in time, forever happy. But what if that wasn't the real story? What if the smiles hid growing tensions and the upbeat songs masked a chorus of frustration? For decades, the truth stayed hidden behind a curtain of nostalgia. But now, at 91, Shirley Jones is finally breaking her silence. She's revealing the heartbreaking personal and professional reasons that forced her to walk away from the iconic role that defined a generation. And the truth is more shocking, more personal, and far more complicated than you ever imagined. It's a story not just about a TV show, but about the true cost of fame. The fight for creative integrity, and the moment a Hollywood legend decided she had to reclaim her own life. Even if it meant leaving America's favorite family behind. To understand the weight of Shirley's decision, we have to go back to the beginning. 2. When the Partridge Family felt like a miracle. The year was 1970. America was a divided nation, grappling with social upheaval. Television, in response, often served as an escape. Into this landscape drove a brightly painted school bus, and out stepped a family that seemed to be the very embodiment of sunshine. The concept was loosely based on a real-life musical family, the Cowsills, but the Partridge Family was its own creation. A widowed mother, Shirley, raising 5 kids who form a band in their garage. Their first song, I Think I Love You, becomes a massive hit. And just like that, they're on their way, managed by the perpetually exasperated Reuben Kincaid. The show was an instant smash and a multimedia sensation. The songs, voiced by Shirley Jones and her real-life stepson David Cassidy, weren't just props. They were genuine chart-topping hits that sold millions of copies. At the center of this whirlwind was Shirley Jones, and her presence gave the show immediate credibility. This wasn't just any actress. She'd been plucked from obscurity by Rodgers and Hammerstein to star in the film versions of Asterisk Oklahoma and Carousel Marion the Librarian in The Music Man. And, in a move that shocked many, she won an Academy Award for her gritty portrayal of a vengeful prostitute in the 1960 film Elmer Gantry. For an actress of her stature, moving to television was a big deal. But for Shirley, the decision was practical and personal. A sitcom schedule meant she could be home at night with her own young children, a priority for her as a mother. Plus, she was drawn to the role of Shirley Partridge, a modern, working mom, which felt fresh and progressive. The on-screen chemistry was electric. The family felt real, especially the bond between Shirley and her eldest son, Keith, played by David Cassidy. The fact that they were stepmother and stepson in real life added a layer of authentic affection that audiences could feel. For the first couple of seasons, the set was, by all accounts, a happy place. The scripts were lighthearted and focused on the entire family, and the camaraderie was genuine. For 4 years and 96 episodes, the Partridge Family was a cornerstone of American pop culture. And then, in 1974, it ended. The official narrative was that the show's ratings had started to slip after it was moved to a new time slot opposite the juggernaut sitcom, All in the Family. It was a simple business decision. Shirley Jones, along with the rest of the cast, was ready to move on. For decades, this remained the accepted story, a neat and tidy conclusion. But it was a myth. The truth, as Shirley would later reveal, was far messier. What if the real reason the show ended was far more personal? What if the forces that tore the show apart started not in a network boardroom, but right there on set? Long before Shirley Jones spoke her truth, there were whispers that the Technicolor dream of the Partridges was starting to fade. And the catalyst for this change had a name: David Cassidy. It's impossible to overstate the phenomenon of Cassidy. It was a force of nature. Almost overnight, David Cassidy went from an unknown actor to the biggest teen idol on the planet. His fan club became the largest in history, surpassing even Elvis Presley and the Beatles. For the network, this was a goldmine, directly fueling the show's ratings and record sales. But what was a blessing for the business side of the show was becoming a curse for its creative soul. The delicate balance of the ensemble cast began to tip. Slowly at first, and then with accelerating speed, the focus of the Partridge Family began to shift. Scripts that had once woven stories around the entire family increasingly became The Keith Partridge Show. Storylines about Laurie's high school life or Danny's latest scheme were minimized or cut. For Shirley Jones, who had signed on to star in a family ensemble, this was deeply concerning. She hadn't joined the show to be a background player. In her stepson's star vehicle, it wasn't about jealousy. Shirley adored David and was proud of his success. But she was also a professional who could see the heart of the show being eroded. The family dynamic was being sacrificed at the altar of teen idol worship. The pressure on David was astronomical. He'd spend all day on set, then go to a recording studio, and on weekends he'd fly to massive arenas to perform. He was, as he later admitted, completely emotionally and physically burned out. This exhaustion inevitably began to bleed onto the set. The once light and happy atmosphere started to feel the strain. David became more withdrawn and irritable. As the maternal figure on set, Shirley saw it more clearly than anyone, watching with growing concern as her stepson struggled under a weight that would have crushed most adults. The other young cast members felt the shift as well. Susan Day, who played Laurie, and Danny Bonaducci, who played Danny, saw their roles shrinking. The sense of being a real team began to fade. In its place, a hierarchy emerged, with David at the top. The camaraderie that had made the first few years so special was dissolving. The official story was about ratings, but the cracks were already there, etched by the blinding glare of a single spotlight. For decades, Shirley Jones maintained a graceful public silence, but in her memoir and later interviews, she finally pulled back the curtain. Her decision to leave wasn't a passive acceptance of cancellation. It was a preemptive move to save her own creative spirit. At its core, Shirley's decision stemmed from a betrayal of the show's original promise. An Academy Award-winning actress, she had agreed to lead an ensemble. Yet, by the fourth season, she found her role increasingly marginalized. The scripts would arrive, and her part would be whittled down to a few brief scenes. For an actress of her caliber, it was more than frustrating. It was insulting. She felt she had been reduced from the family's anchor to set dressing. The quality of the writing had also taken a nosedive. The early scripts had heart. As the focus shifted to David, the plots became formulaic and repetitive. The warmth and family interactions were gone, replaced by predictable teen-centric stories. The breaking point came during a script meeting. Shirley voiced her concerns to the producers, suggesting ways to restore the ensemble feel. Her suggestions were met with polite smiles and then dismissed. The message was clear. David Cassidy was the golden goose. In that moment, Shirley realized it was a losing battle. The show had become a product, and she was just a cog in the machine. She knew then that she could not continue. With her contract ending, she quietly decided not to renew it. She would finish the season and walk away on her own terms. This professional disillusionment was tangled up with a growing personal and emotional toll. The role of Shirley Partridge, once a joy, had begun to feel like a cage. Week after week, she was the ever-smiling, patient mother. The very wholesomeness that made the character beloved was, for the artist playing her, creatively stifling. Adding to the pain was her unique position as David's real-life stepmother. She had a front-row seat to the brutal toll fame was taking on the young man she had known for years. She saw the exhaustion the cameras didn't capture and heard the weariness in his voice. Navigating this dual role was emotionally taxing. On set, she was his co-worker. Off-set, she was a mother figure, worried sick. This strain also poisoned the on-set atmosphere. The easy camaraderie of the early seasons was gone. The younger cast members were dealing with their shrinking roles and the universal struggles of adolescence under the harsh glare of the Hollywood spotlight. The set was no longer a happy escape, but a workplace fraught with unspoken tensions. Ultimately, her decision to leave was an act of self-preservation. Staying would have meant sacrificing her artistic integrity and participating in a system she felt was creatively bankrupt and emotionally damaging to those around her, especially David. She needed to step away to reclaim herself as an artist. Leaving the Partridge Family wasn't about abandoning the show. It was about saving herself. Shirley Jones's feelings weren't happening in a vacuum. Her experience was the calm center of a storm of behind-the-scenes chaos, validating her reasons for wanting to escape. The most prominent source of disruption was Danny Bonaducci, a gifted child actor. Bonaducci was also a troubled kid with a difficult home life, which he and others have described as abusive. As a result, he often acted out. Shirley recalled him being unruly, and she and Dave Madden Reuben Kincaid took on parental roles. Madden even took Bonaducci into his home at times to give him a safe haven. Shirley would bring him to her house to play with her sons, trying to provide a sense of normalcy he lacked. In one incident, to teach him a lesson after he had become particularly unruly, the cast convinced Susan Day to pour a pitcher of milk over his head. Susan Day, who played Laurie, was fighting her own silent battles. A teenager with no prior acting experience, she was thrust into the spotlight and developed a painful, unrequited crush on David Cassidy. This emotional turmoil was a heavy burden for a young woman to carry in such a public space. Furthermore, Day struggled with severe body image issues that led to an eating disorder. Determined to stay thin, she reportedly ate little more than carrots for a time, causing her skin to turn orange and her weight to drop to a dangerously low 92 pounds. A blunt comment from Danny Bonaducci about her appearance reportedly shocked her into recognizing the severity of her condition. Beyond the personal issues, the entire production was straining under cassettomania. Simultaneously, the TV landscape was shifting. Gritty, realistic shows like All in the Family were dominating the ratings and changing audience expectations. The innocent world of the Partridge Family was beginning to look like a relic. For Shirley, who came from a tradition of quality storytelling, this shift toward pure commercial exploitation was another sign that it was time to go. If you're fascinated by the hidden stories behind your favorite classic TV shows, you're in the right place. These stories remind us that behind every perfect on-screen moment, there are real people with real struggles. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another revelation from the golden age of television. Shirley Jones's departure was not a dramatic headline-grabbing exit. It was a quiet, deliberate choice. By not renewing her contract, she took control of her own narrative. Her decision, coupled with David Cassidy's own burnout and desire to leave, was the final nail in the coffin for the series. Without its maternal anchor and breakout star, the network knew there was no show left. For Shirley, stepping away from the psychedelic bus was like stepping back into the light. She returned to her first love, the theater, and took on more diverse and complex roles in film and television, deliberately challenging the wholesome Mrs. Partridge image. Her post-Partridge career was a testament to her versatility, proving she was always far more than America's television mom. The legacy of the Partridge Family is complex. For millions, it remains a cherished piece of nostalgia. Shirley herself never regretted leaving but looked back on the show's early years with fondness. Her choice allowed her to preserve those good memories, rather than letting them be soured by bitterness. David Cassidy's life after the show sadly mirrored the pressures Shirley had witnessed. He spent years trying to shed the Keith Partridge image, desperate to be taken seriously as a musician. His struggles with fame and substance abuse were a poignant epilogue, underscoring the human cost of the phenomenon. The other cast members also moved on with varying degrees of difficulty. Susan Dey found success again on LA Law but has famously refused to participate in Partridge reunions, suggesting some wounds never healed. Danny Bonaducci went through highly publicized struggles with addiction before finding a new career. In radio, their post-show lives are a powerful reminder that the end of a series is rarely the end of the story. For Shirley Jones, leaving was a necessary new beginning, a powerful declaration that her identity as an artist was hers and hers alone. So, the true reason Shirley Jones left the Partridge Family wasn't just a ratings dip. It was a deeply personal and professional decision born from a perfect storm of circumstances. It was the story of an accomplished artist watching her character get sidelined and her work decline. It was the story of a stepmother watching with a heavy heart as her stepson buckled under the impossible weight of global stardom. It was the story of a woman feeling creatively suffocated by a one-dimensional role. For decades, fans thought they knew the story. They saw the smiles, heard the songs, and believed in the picture-perfect image. But behind that image was a far more human story of on-set tensions and the corrosive effects of fame. Shirley Jones didn't leave because the show was over. She left because, for her, the true spirit of the show was already gone. Her choice was a quiet act of rebellion against a Hollywood machine that prioritized profit over people. It was a decision to protect her own artistic integrity and personal well-being. At 91, her revelation doesn't tarnish the legacy of the Partridge Family. It deepens it. It reminds us that even inside the most brightly colored fantasy, real life, with all its complexities, is always waiting, just off camera. She walked away not from her TV family, but for herself, ensuring that when she looked back, she could still, genuinely, get happy.